Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no answer.
Yes, it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is. Because I represent science. I represent science.
I represent science.
You confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made it
didn't
up
say
as you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science and it just appeared.
Making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children. Do you think that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. Here you are without your mask, where you got to go and enjoy the game and sit right next to people not following the 6 feet of distancing, not wearing your mask, and everyone else was forced to stay home and stop enjoying life. And your science here, your science is displayed perfectly in this picture where children in school were put in plastic bubbles because of your science, your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email where you said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words. But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools. And then they were forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Shame. I represent science.
So, Dr. Fauci is being put to task, and I'm here for it. I think there's been a few things coming out about Dr. Fauci lately, which I'm not surprised. I always knew if anybody was going to be handed to the public as a patsy or someone to blame, he has a lot to be blamed for. He's definitely not the only one responsible or accountable for the mess that was the pandemic. I always knew, like, if someone was going to be handed over to be responsible, it would be Dr. Fauci. So I'm not that surprised that Dr. Fauci is basically much like on trial of the public. He had to go speak to the Senate and he asked him a bunch of questions, not the first time, and I don't know her name. She's some politician. Basically went in on Dr. Fauci about his lies, the email that he said didn't exist, that he sent, and basically admitted that the mask didn't work. His statement that he said where he admitted that the mask and the social distancing wasn't really based on science or fact. It was just like something they kind of came up with, which is fine if you are a person who is educated to say, like, this is my educated guess that these things will work. These are my theories. But then you say that to the public. You say, like, well, we don't know if these things will work, but this is our educated guess and our theories, and we just recommend it. But you don't fire people for it. You don't ruin people's lives over it. You don't take people's careers and livelihoods away from it. You don't keep kids out of school for months and months and months and months at a time. You don't other people for not following that advice. You don't dehumanize people who don't want to follow that advice when it wasn't actually based in facts or science. It was just a guess. So you should have said that. Dr. Fauci, when she said, like, do you represent science? And Dr. Fauci kind of was like mumbling, like, well, I am a scientist and I, dabble in scientific theories, but I do remember Dr. Fauci being quoted as saying he is the science. They put Dr. Fauci, he put himself on a pedestal of truth, like literally the God of truth when it came to the pandemic, that no one can deny anything he's saying. Every word that he speaks, every syllable was to be taken as truth, fact, and the Bible of the pandemic. He put himself on that pedestal. How dare anybody question me, because I am the science. He put himself on that pedestal. The media put themselves on that pedestal. The late night hosts put Dr. Fauci on that pedestal. His fans, his loyal flock put him on that pedestal, where he was basically admitting that they were just throwing shit out there and kind of guessing. There's another clip of Dr. Fauci basically admitting that they initially, and this is if you believe that part of it, they initially believed that the vaccine was going to stop the spread and prevent transmission or prevent yourself getting affected. But a few months into it, hear me out, months, they knew that wasn't a thing anymore, and the best that it would do for this strain or iteration of the virus before it mutated, that it would prevent you from going to the hospitalization or getting severely sick, which we already knew if you were at a certain age or a certain health range that you probably most likely wouldn't have been hospitalized in the first place.
Fauci's testimony before a House subcommittee marked his first public appearance on Capitol Hill since retiring in December 2022. He said the COVID lab leak theory isn't a conspiracy.
Fauci did admit the vaccine was not as effective as they first thought.
Despite statements to the contrary, it did not stop transmission of the virus.
That is a complicated issue because in the beginning, the first iteration of the vaccines did have an effect, not 100%, not a high effect. They did prevent infection and subsequently, obviously, transmission. However, it's important to point out something that we did not know early on that became evident as the months went by, is that the durability of protection against infection and hence transmission was relatively limited.
It definitely had a positive effect for many people, especially those that were vulnerable. But we knew from the trials that people that got vaccinated still were subject to getting COVID.
So there was a lot of people that was unnecessarily vaccinated because they already fell into the demographic of people who would not became seriously ill. It was just people who were older. It was people who were morbidly obese. It was people who already had some sort of illness like diabetes or asthma or something like that. Those were the people that were at risk of being hospitalized. The rest of the population weren't at risk of being hospitalized. And if that was the only thing that the vaccine was going to do anyway, then it was kind of a waste of time for them to get the vaccine, especially if they're being forced to do it in so many ways. Again, losing their job, losing their livelihood, shutting down people's businesses, firing people, othering people, dehumanizing people, not allowing people to go to school, stuff like that. Yeah, like there was a lot of fucked up things that happened to the population, and it was based on assumptions, lies, and not telling the whole truth, holding back facts and stuff like that. And if Dr. Fauci, again, is putting himself on such a high level pedestal of I am the God of truth and science, then you need to speak it directly and not hide things from the public. Because people are putting their faith in you. You know, God, Fauci, that's how a lot of people saw him and still see him today. There were so many people defending Fauci, by the way, on Twitter. People were like, oh my God, Dr. Fauci is a hero. Dr. Fauci saved us. Dr. Fauci saved me, and stuff like that. Like, no one actually cared what he was saying or what was being stated in this back and forth. Yes, she was being really heated towards him, and people were saying she was so disrespectful. This is a doctor. He should be honored, and he saved so many lives. I disagree. I don't think he saved so many lives, because if you see other reports of the weird sudden death syndrome that's going around all of a sudden.
At the end of 2022, or 2021 going into 2022, Scott Davison, the CEO of One America, highlighted something that the whole industry saw. He was the first to say it. They were experiencing 40% excess mortality in their group life policies, which are policies given to those employees who join up to Fortune 500. And he experienced 40%, and the industry experienced 40% excess mortality in that age group, 25 through 44. Yes.
Which is profound.
Profound, right? 2021. Yeah. He said 10% would be once in a 200-year flood, which is a 3 standard deviation event. Mm-hmm. So again, rare, just 3 standard deviation event. 40%, he said, is off the charts. He didn't even want to put a number on it.
The heart problems, people were just dropping dead, very young people, very healthy, young, athletic people having long, being harmed, vaccine harmed, still having long-term health effects. We don't know from years and years and years and after this how many lives will be devastated or even lost after taking this vaccine. So we don't know how many people that he's saved or he's harmed. Not to mention the kids who are still left behind and still catching up, what it did to them psychologically, what it did to them emotionally, what it did to them mentally. It stunted their growth socially because they were left out of school. So like, let's not pretend his hands aren't bloody as fuck. But again, Dr. Fauci or the whole pandemic things was made out to be freaking religion for some people. So you questioning their God, Fauci, and you crushing in their ideology to blindly just believe whatever the mainstream media was saying, even though at this point it's all old news, and Big Pharma and Pfizer have already came out and confirmed that a lot of the conspiracy theories were actually true. And Dr. Fauci himself even confirming it, saying the mask, or at least the drugstore mask that most people were wearing, didn't really work and wasn't effective, and he doesn't recommend it. Even though all this stuff is coming out to be true, people still refuse to believe it, because that is, you're attacking their religion, which is their ideology, and their ideology is their identity. And people really very, very rarely want to dismantle their identity and dismantle their belief system. People will fight tooth and nail to hold on to cognitive dissonance, because that's just who they are. People's ideology is like their religion. And so if you are a devout religious person, like, you have to put yourself in their shoes and understand, if someone came out with some sort of new breakthrough to prove that something about your religion is wrong, you would most likely just flat out deny it and say it was the devil, they're trying to shake my faith, this is wrong, this is propaganda, because you can't at this point in your life dismantle your belief system, dismantle your ideology, dismantle your identity. So people will hold on to things that are not even true, when the facts are literally right there in front of your face in black and white. Dr. Fauci himself, in his own words, saying that these things are true, these things we knew it wasn't going to stop the spread months into the pandemic or months into the rollout of the vaccines, and they still refuse to believe it because that is their religion. And the idea that, oh my God, the racist right-wing Trump supporters were right, that will literally shatter their whole fucking reality. We live in a world of NPCs, people. And it's not just the left, it's the right, it's everybody. There's so many people who just like, give me somebody to believe in, let them tell me what to do and what to think, so I don't have to do it for myself. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'm also going to react to another video with Dr. Fauci and the whole AIDS debacle, because this is not Dr. Fauci's first rodeo of corruption and lies and deceit and hiding the facts. He's done this before during the AIDS epidemic. So question, how does someone who already had their hands bloody from a previous thing get so close to the president, gain so much power and influence, such a voice that is elevated as truth, facts, and God, when he already has a history of bloody corruption? That is my question. That's why I say, like, Dr. Fauci is not the only one responsible here. There's a lot of people that should be held accountable. Will that ever happen? No, not in our lifetime. And I doubt if Dr. Fauci would ever truly be held responsible. He would just get yelled at and finger wagging. But honestly, this gives me a little bit of hope in humanity that I am wearing clothes, by the way. Oh my God, you can't see my shirt. This gives me a little hope in humanity, because it's like, at least this stuff is coming out now, because if they ever try to pull this off again, less people will be so willing to just blindly follow for your own good type of fear. So I am glad this stuff is coming out, even though I don't really think any of these people will be held that accountable. Dr. Fauci made millions off of this. He can go and fucking live on an island and live his rest of his days off, and he's good. He's good. His family's good. His kids good. If he has kids, people made their money, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of this is coming out now, because people made their money. The money that's the Pfizer and the Big Pharma was making is all dropped now. They got it. They got their money. They secretly went in and probably changed a couple of laws. They got what they wanted. That's why I think a lot of this stuff is coming out. But again, at least if they ever try to pull this off again, people will be less likely just to blindly follow. But let me know what you guys think of this whole thing. Now I just realized, like, I did 2 videos, and now I feel like both of them are going to look like I'm naked. Anyway, you guys have a good day. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell to get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. If you'd like to support the channel further, for the love of God, you can donate. My PayPal and Cash App link is in the description box below. And you can super thanks, and you guys have an amazing, beautiful day. Bye!